We don't give up. I said so.
Never give up.
No, don't give up too easily. This is the key message. I'm very, very happy to have you connected now, Tina, to talk about the situation in Hungary, to talk about what are the recent developments. But I think first of all, let me tell you that as a member of European Parliament, I can express, and we did this as the whole Parliament, to send you all the solidarity that we are very, very watching closely, that we are pushing the Commission to act fiercely, and that the majority of the European Parliament stands behind you. And you see me just as one of these representatives from the S&D group that is very worried about the shared values we have in the European Union. And therefore, for me, this is not a Hungarian question or a question of the LGBTQ community, but it's a question for us all from our Europe. So when I read the first interview with you, I was also very curious how you named yourself Trans Vanilla as an organization. I already said you are a grassroots organization since many years. You are very well connected also on European and international level. To tell us first, and everyone that is listening, a little bit about your organization before we come to the special situation for your community in Hungary.
Okay, so can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, yes.
Great, I'm really happy to be in this call, and I've been really struggling to join, so it's double happiness at the moment that we succeeded. Thank you for the invitation, Gabi. I think that's already an expression of interest in the situation on the ground in Hungary, which I find is really crucial and is important. And thank you to the European Parliament and all the parliamentarians who have supported us in the past years, because we felt that, and that's a great feeling. I mean, with solidarity, we can do nothing. So, I mean, there are limitations to what all of us can do. But just to jump on the question that you want me to answer, is the name of Trans Vanilla. I mean, that's a long story, and there is a history behind. First, me and my partner, we established a website for queer people in 1999. That was quite some time ago when queer was not that much used. And that was named Pink Vanilla. We just had put different words together on a paper, brainstormed, and that was the name we came up with. And that was going on. And around 2004 and 2005, we've been thinking about launching an informational website for trans people who were transitioning in Hungary. Because one person who I really care about and love was going through transition, and there was just no information available. I mean, really, there was only one forum where trans people shared their experiences, but that was it. So then we started to develop a website for that, and that was named after Pink Vanilla. It became Trans Vanilla. So that's the beginning of the history. And then on this website, there was a forum where trans people showed up, and there were more and more trans people. I do remember that we've been saying that this must be fake profiles because there are not that many trans people in Hungary. But then we have met those people, so it turned out that there are real people behind those, not fake profiles, obviously. So we had offline meetings, and we are really a community-based grassroots group. The organization was established from people who were going to these meetings and who've been discussing how trans rights are protected and represented in Hungary. And we wanted to have an organization that focuses solely on gender identity and gender expression and our issues. And we couldn't imagine working in an LGBT organization. So that's why we established an organization, and then we named it Trans Vanilla after the website that was established before. So that's the history behind the name.
And you not only organize, you also are very connected with other organizations around Europe and also beyond Europe. I learned, and so I would like to know a little bit if you talk about the situation in Hungary. And I said also the rest of Europe is very worried what is happening. there. How do you see the situation at the moment? We did learn that some time ago the Fidesz government proposed a new law in Hungary that makes it really impossible to change your name or your gender marker, and therefore to hear a little bit about this, and also in this context how important the link between the national action in Hungary and the European action, not only of the parliament, but also from many organizations, is for you.
So I think it's really important to highlight that trans issues were not put in the spotlight. It's just very recently happened that there are discussions and there is public discourse on trans issues and about the right of trans people to having proper names and gender markers in documents or having access to trans-specific healthcare. So these issues were not discussed before much. So it's a quite new thing in the public discourse, but trans people have always existed. We've been here and we will be here, whatever happens in Hungary. Not everyone leaves Hungary. So we are here and we will stay, and there will be trans people. And Hungary is really a bad example these days. But that was not always like that. And Hungary was doing relatively good on trans rights, for example, 10 years, not 10, 15 years ago. When there was legal gender recognition available for Hungarian trans people in an administrative procedure with psychiatric diagnosis, but no other medical intervention was required. And it was working pretty well. The issue was that it was not legislated. There was no legislation behind, no information available. And that was a very special situation. And with this government, we've been always afraid to lose this right because it was relatively easy for them to stop not evaluating applications. And that has happened before the law was proposed by the government, which basically in the end banned the change of name and gender markers. And we've been advocating for proper legislation since 2014. Systemically, we've been working on that. And we've been working a lot with international institutions, with EU institutions, UN institutions, and also with the Council of Europe systems, because it was obvious for us there is no other thing that can put pressure on our government. They will not listen to anyone else. And so we've been working a lot internationally because we felt that we have to. Because we had no other choice, because we wanted to make life better for trans people in Hungary. It seems that all the tools did not reach what we wanted to reach, but this whole systemic attack on trans rights is the part of the systemic attack on gender as such. So it's trans people are just on the side, a very small and rather invisible group, but being put into the spotlight just to scapegoat some part of society which is not known very much. And I think whole Europe can be really worried, and trans people are worried all around Europe, because Hungary is not the only country that is going backwards, or at least countries have stopped moving forward on trans rights. And I could also mention Germany, for example, where we are waiting for a new law for legal gender recognition, because there is room for improvement in Germany. So anyone who is worried and is listening, please make proper legislation in your own country and show the way for Hungary how to do this. Because when legal gender recognition was banned in Hungary, there was basically no tool to be used on the European Union level. We couldn't do anything because that's not a competency of the EU, which is, I think, is really sad. And we are more and more talking about providing protection in the EU based on gender identity. That would kind of a little bit solve this problem, because at the moment there is an infringement procedure about a disclaimer on a children's book. And when trans people actually were stripped away their rights and ruined their life, the EU could do nothing, because those who have established the EU never imagined such thing could happen. But the EU was basically toolless, to say it like, we can do nothing. I mean, it's beyond imagination what is going on. So it's a little bit bittersweet for us, because we have lost a right last year, which is interfering with trans people's life very much, puts them into forced outings, into discrimination, and we are afraid that it will go up until violence. And what is happening in Hungary, that it seems that it's not stopping. As I just sent you an email today that there is a proposal from the government to have a referendum on 5 questions in relation to protection of children, but it's all about trans and gender and sexual minorities, to simplify it a bit.
What do you think is the intention behind this idea for a referendum and this question? I had a quick look at the questions, and they seem, in my view, quite sort of suggestive questions in terms of the way they are formulated.
Yes, it's the tactic of the Hungarian government. They do these public consultations all the time, and there are questions where there is basically one answer to that question. So that's how they do consultation. And also these questions, like this question, do you support the availability of gender reassignment treatments for minors? Very few would go for a referendum and say yes to this, like that. I mean, it's basically ridiculous what they do. But having a referendum on these topics is a move that is not good, we believe. It shouldn't be a referendum who has access to what medical treatment. That should lie with professionals who decide. It's not politics, it's not civil society. There is a medical profession that is able to have a decision on that. And my assumption is that the medical profession is not unified, but in certain parts of the world that it is available for minors to get any type of treatment. But in Hungary, that was never the case. Never ever a minor could have access to any trans-related healthcare. So having a referendum on giving access to people to something that they never had access to, that's a waste of money. But actually the intention is rather clear, to take away attention from elsewhere, to not talk about rule of law issues and other issues that are emerging, but instead scapegoating LGBT people and scapegoating gender minorities, which is very, very difficult to cope with for us. I mean, we just got into the spotlight and we never asked for it. And at the moment we have to talk about trans kids in a context where it's just impossible to raise the issue at all. And now we are facing a referendum on that. So we just don't know where the end of the road is and what is possible in the European Union. That's a big question.
Yeah, because I mean, everyone that joins the European Union with our Article 2 saying that rule of law, democracy, but also the rights of minorities have to be respected and have to be safeguarded, to see where are possibilities to act. And indeed, at the moment, it's different angles to address the question of rule of law in Hungary, and attempts really also of the Commission. I think our Commissioner, Helena Dalli, is very committed. I don't know if you ever had the possibility to meet her or talk to her in these questions, but indeed there is no competence there. And we have to focus on the issue where there are competences and to continue to address it. But with this new referendum, what do you expect? Will it then be used just to say, okay, the majority of Hungarians support the Fidesz government in their action, or do you think it will just shift the attention from other issues?
That's a good question. I mean, I have learned about this proposal 2 hours ago, so it's difficult to assess what is really behind and what the real aim is. At the moment, we are having discussions on it, and I can tell you that we didn't came to conclusions yet. I mean, we've been not expecting this. I mean, it's already in the law. So having a referendum on something that you have created a law on a month ago, that is really, I mean, if there is rule of law in a country, then it just cannot happen. And also when it comes to rule of law, there is 2 decisions of the Constitutional Court from the recent years on gender identity and on trans issues, and the government is just not implementing them. So that's a breach of rule of law, and that's a much bigger issue than attacking trans people. But not respecting your own Constitutional Court, that is beyond what I can imagine. So the aim of this referendum, I really have no idea what, because I mean, the questions are formulated in a suggestive way, as you said. For some of them, we would also say absolutely no, because it is phrased in a way that tricks in people. I don't know if the government wants a successful referendum or they just don't care, because I'm not an expert on referendum law in Hungary, but I have quickly checked, and it seems that there has to be a 50% participation from those who are eligible to vote. And if there is a campaign against, for example, not voting, for not going and vote on the referendum, this might not even be successful. I mean, still the government can say that those who went, 99.9% said they agree with us. But what if they agree with us in other things that are against the law? Then, I mean, it's really a path Hungary is going on, which is alarming.
Yeah, it is. And I have seen that on the website of your organizations, you have quite interesting profiles on the situation of trans people in Hungary. Can you explain a little bit to people listening and watching what this is? I think this is a very effective way also to get people to understand the dramatic situation in your country and in many other countries of Europe, I have to say.
Are you referring to the campaign that was launched very recently? Yes, the name of the campaign is Name from the Past, and it was developed in a collaboration with a creative agency. And we had a lot of discussions on how to approach the topic and how to initiate a public campaign, how to explain to people how the ban of legal gender recognition affects trans people's lives. And we have 4 trans people in a video together with non-trans cisgender people who are talking about names that they don't feel belonging to them. Cisgender people also have names that they want to change. Cisgender people also have nicknames they don't like and they want to get rid of. And trans people just have official names that they want to get rid of. And so we had put all these people together, and they talk about it in a video, and anyone can join on Instagram to this campaign. The name of the campaign is Neva Múltból in Hungarian, so we have created an Instagram profile for that. People have to show to themselves and tell their own stories regarding names that they want to leave behind in the past. And this campaign was widely covered in media, although it was launched a day before the previous law was passed in Parliament. So the attention went to that law, but still a lot of media covered this campaign. We got a lot of celebrities or well-known people in Hungary joining the campaign and sharing this with their followers on Instagram. And it also helps trans people. I mean, we got feedback that they are really happy that so many people they know, actors and well-known other people, support them with a post and telling what kind of nickname they wanted to leave behind, or just say that. So what we want with this campaign, it's very important that in Hungary we have closed name lists for males and females. And since it is not allowed anymore to change gender markers, it is not allowed to choose a name that reflects the gender identity of a trans person. And this is what we want to tell, and this is what trans people who go to the media tell, that you see, I'm looking as a woman, and I'm named Joseph, for example. And then people can start to understand what the real issue and the problem with this is, and how much it is not about registered sex at birth, how Fidesz said that. Because their argument back then was also rather suggestive, like, when you're born, it's easy to decide which sex you have, and that's a situation, and that's reflected in the birth certificate, and this is about nothing else. Although we said it's about something else, that it will ban trans people having access to gender markers and names, but So this is the way we want to tell, and thanks to the agency, I believe that we can tell it in a way that touches hearts and minds, and we cannot expect more at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's very important to see real people. It is not just a theoretical question. It affects the whole personality, the life of people, and to express this and to make people feel it and understand it, I think is very important. Also to raise awareness. I would also like to take the opportunity a little bit to talk about the situation also during the pandemic, because we know the situation already beforehand was not easy, but it deteriorated also because certain safe spaces you can use, you cannot go anymore. So how developed it, and how is the situation at the moment?
So during the pandemic, we've been trying to address the issues that the pandemic was raising, and Transvanilla provided support to those in need, those who lost their whatever. People just came to us, and we had a fund where we have collected a certain amount of money, and we just gave out money for whatever they needed for, because we felt that is what is needed at that time. But instead of that, the focus was a lot more on legal gender recognition, because it was just the law on legal gender recognition just was introduced 2 weeks after the first case was identified in Hungary, the first case of coronavirus. So instead of focusing on the pandemic, we had to focus on advocacy, and also from the community, the requests were mostly about legal gender recognition, but we provided the support needed. And also we have watched how access to trans-specific healthcare was kind of vanishing. Surgeries were obviously postponed, labor is not life-saving, and access to hormone treatment that's already scarce, but that became even more difficult. So it was a period of time which was very difficult for trans people, because they have lost access to healthcare for a while, and then they have lost access to legal gender recognition forever, or at least for a lot longer while than healthcare. And at the moment, things are going back to normal in Hungary. We don't have much restrictions at the moment, so we are watching what is going on. It's difficult to collect information, because there are no healthcare protocols for trans-specific healthcare in the country. So trans people rely on doctors' goodwill, and they can treat whomever they want, the way they want to. So some people have access, others don't. It's a total mess, and at the moment in the healthcare, advocating for better access for trans people, for trans-specific healthcare, that is really difficult to touch, to say it nicely.
Yeah, and I know that on Saturday there will be the Budapest Pride too. We will have one here in Berlin, and also, how do you assess the situation? I mean, I still am worried when I remember the pictures we saw from Georgia or from Turkey recently, where really peaceful protesters were attacked, and police did not protect them enough. And what is your expectations, but what was also your experience in the past here, and will the Budapest Pride raise more overall attention to the specific situation right now, and what can we do, say from Berlin at our Pride on Saturday, to send you signals of support?
So Budapest Pride, back in the years when I was young and happy to participate, no one cared about it. We were just marching and celebrating, and that was it. And I was volunteering for Pride when it was first attacked, and there was no proper protection back then in the first years. But later the issue became overprotection. Like, for a reason, the half of the city was closed down, so everyone hated Pride Day because then it was closed down. And the other thing is that the march had to go in between fences, and no pedestrians were allowed to go into the streets of the march. So it was basically like marching in a tunnel. So it didn't have any meaning anymore. And I personally decided not to march because I said I'm not an animal that is put in cages and marches, but many people marched still and fought for marching, not in between fences. I'm not closely following. I'm not organizing Pride as an event, so I don't know what to expect this year. What I know is that a lot relies on the police and on the far right, which is kind of linked a bit to the government. That's our assessment of the situation. I don't know whether to expect to have attacks, but I also don't know what to expect from politicians, because we have a law which can be applied to Pride if they want to. I mean, this law that went through the parliament recently, I don't know. I don't know. It's civil disobedience that they still organize the Pride March, if you read carefully the law. But I mean, there are no sanctions attached to propaganda of different sexual orientations and gender identities. So I really don't know what to expect. I believe that there will be a lot of people marching because people are pissed off and they just don't understand what is going on with this scapegoating of LGBT people. There is a lot of support from states and cultural institutions and embassies. And I also know about European parliamentarians who are coming to march to Budapest. So, I mean, it's going to be a very interesting event. There is silence at the moment, at least to me, and I'm a regular citizen in relation to that, because for many reasons I'm not marching. So, but I hear nothing, which is a good sign. That means that people can go out and can really march, and Budapest Pride will happen. And yeah, so I think it's going to be big.
Good. I know that from our LGBTIQ intergroup we have in the European Parliament that some members will come and march together, and we definitely will have here at the Berlin Pride also signals of solidarity to Budapest and anywhere in the world where we know that rights are attacked and where the situation is deteriorating, like you said before. So I think we will continue to engage. I think it's very important to know what is going on in Hungary and in other countries, to show solidarity, to support the organizations. And I know also that your organization Trans Vanilla is very well connected all over Europe. You do also European projects. You as a person are also involved here for the exchange, and I can assure you that we as the European Parliament, we will follow always very closely. We will continue to push the Commission to do whatever she can do as a European Commission to address violations of fundamental rights. These are our joint shared rights, and to protect them, because any attack on your organizations is an attack on everyone in the European Union. And I think this is for us very important. This is why I'm very grateful that we could exchange today on the situation, to have the latest news, because a lot of people here saw today also this news about the referendum and are a bit worried. But I also understand that it needs some time for reflection. It's a very new information, and to stay connected here, so we know what will be the reaction of your organization, of other political groups that we can support, and to make sure that we fight for a Europe where everyone can have the life they anticipate, the names, the rights, really, because this European Union is about rights for people, and to guarantee them, but rights not only on paper, but really also in reality. So thank you very much for the exchange. and we keep in contact. So in any case, if you decided on a strategy, we are very interested to hear, to support, and to say we are in this together in Europe, in this fight. And Orban might be already there for a long time, but he will also not be there forever.
Thank you, Gabi.
Thank you, and have a good week. And we are in this together. So bye bye, and thank you.
Bye bye.
Take care.
Take care.
Yes.